Hey guys, so this is going to be my first video for 2024. Not really a lot to say here. I'm working on some other things, including a review of a Bengali movie, a review of the movie The Election from, I believe, 1999. If I got that year wrong, I'm doing this off from the dome. And also a thing with AI, which I'm kind of debating on whether I'm going to talk about that again, something kind of interesting. What I do just kind of want to make a really quick video is commenting on the so-called Epstein documents that are about to drop. So for those people who haven't heard about this, you probably have if you clicked on this link, is that this past Monday, I believe it was Monday, some documents which have been dubbed the Epstein papers were released by a court. All these are really just several dozens or dozens of papers from a civil suit filed by a woman by the name of Virginia Jeffrey. She's 40 now, but I think when she was 16, she was approached by Giselle, and I always mess up her name, Giselle Maxwell, who is basically, I guess Epstein's, I don't know if it was his girlfriend, but she used, or Epstein used her to basically groom and recruit young women. And in this suit, she filed it against Maxwell, saying that that she was compelled or manipulated into going around with her and Epstein to different countries and being forced to do things with older men. She was 16 at the time, and she met her, or Maxwell met her at the Mar-a-Lago club, which that sounds like ground zero of getting sexually harassed, if I've ever heard of a ground zero of sexual harassment, the Mar-a-Lago club in the 90s. So not to poo-poo this is an important thing for this woman, and it's important that her story is told. It's important that all of these people, all of these women's stories are told and heard and listened to. But I do not find this as nearly as interesting as most people do. In fact, I really don't find the whole story with Epstein that interesting at all. It really doesn't tell us anything. So, well, not anything new. Okay, so it tells us that there are predators in the world, and these predators, some of them are wealthy and powerful. That's something we already know, right? It tells us that some of these predators who are wealthy and powerful may know other wealthy and powerful rich people. That's something we already know. I think Berlusconi from the top of my head, right? I think people are thinking that these papers are going to have a list of names with maybe a spreadsheet of what these people have done, their sins. And it's not that there are names mentioned, but there are no accusations with it. There are a lot of names. One of the names is Prince Andrew. And she actually, Jeffrey, the young woman or the older woman now, well, she's not older. She's, in her 40s. I think she's 40. But she says that she was compelled to do something. I don't want to say, but compelled to do something with Prince Andrew. I think everyone knows about this. Okay, so the reason I don't find this stuff interesting because it doesn't tell us anything new, and it doesn't tell us anything new about the people who supposedly may have had relationships with Epstein. Some of these supposedly we know for a fact. We know Trump was friends with Epstein. Bill Clinton admitted that he used Epstein's personal jet. We can say that both of the Clintons had relationships with Epstein, at least interactions with him, and probably a number of other powerful, quote unquote, powerful people in government and in entertainment. I say so-called because, look, these people, they're powerful because we elect them and we allow them to be in our spaces. They are not inherently powerful like they're the Justice League or the Legion of Doom or something. This doesn't really tell us anything because all of these people, well, okay, so are some of them sex pests? We already know that. We know that Bill Clinton has been accused by at least a dozen women of everything going from full SA to groping. This goes back to the 70s. We know for certain, these are accusations, but we know for certain about the Monica Lewinsky affair. Same thing with Trump. Several dozen accusations. And when all of these women have the same story, these women, it was one of two things. They either got together, dozens of women got together and plotted to bring these people down, or someone has an MO and they kind of do the same thing over and over again. I'm going to go with the latter. So then the next thing is Epstein. He was murdered. He committed suicide. He was murdered. He committed suicide. Either way, it doesn't really tell us anything, because let's suppose he was murdered. So what do we learn from this? These powerful people in government will murder people. Yeah, we already know that, guys. It's pretty out in the open. Okay. So Hillary Clinton, when she was Secretary of State, we learned this from her emails. This is not a conspiracy. This is fact. We learned from her emails that she had kind of a tacit, well, maybe not, the word is an agreement, but approval of CIA drone strikes. In fact, when she was working for the State Department, I think she only maybe objected to 1% out of more than 250 drone strikes. She's in the State Department, supposed to be diplomats. She chose violence almost every time. She has no problem with killing people, or at least kind of like, if she doesn't kill the people directly, she at least approves of it. Kind of the same thing with Obama. He did over 500 drone strikes. Of course, there's the famous incident where he did a drone strike in Afghanistan, and he hit a wedding. And yeah, there were about 20-something insurgents killed, but there are also roughly 36 civilians, and almost 24 of those civilians were children. We know that. All right? This isn't conspiracy. This is out in the open. So we know that these people are willing to order the deaths of other people. Now, we may say, well, those people are overseas and they're enemies. Well, if you're at that wedding and you're a kid, you're nobody's enemy. You're a kid. So they have no problem with that. So what does the idea that they would order the death or compel the suicide of Epstein really tell us in light of that? And also, we could say, well, these people are going to be held accountable. I don't think these people are going to be held accountable, because if one person is held accountable, then they all have to be held accountable. The thing that sticks out to me is when Obama took office, referring to the war crimes of George W. Bush, and him obviously lying to get to Iraq and destabilizing the region and bringing up ISIS and all this other stuff. Obama said famously, we have to look forward and not backwards. In fact, I don't think Trump would have been held accountable until maybe the January 16th. He did all types of questionable things. But even after January 6th, if he just kind of went to Mar-a-Lago, took up, I don't know, watercolors or something, then maybe he'd be fine. So the Epstein thing, it doesn't really tell us anything new. And then more than likely, none of these people are going to ever be held accountable. We like to think there's balance in the world and whatnot. We're also very easily distracted. We always think that there's some cabal of sexual exploitation of children. And there is exploitation of children. But where we're looking isn't where we're going to find. There's no people under a pizza parlor doing blood rituals. Guys, all that whole thing is just a callback to blood libel, except now instead of using it to persecute Jewish people, they're using it to target whatever powerful person they don't like. So even with the Hillary Clinton emails, people were expecting to see videos of something crazy. But there was some interesting stuff in those emails, but people didn't even really pay attention to the interesting things. So all of these conspiracy theories that people have, most of them I think are off the mark, because quite honestly, the conspiracies, the real things that are going on out there, they're pretty out in the open. They do most of their junk. They do it because they do it with impunity, plain and simple. Anyway, Epstein, not very interesting.